Welcome to Mark's
Red Rum.
Murder
Red Rum.
Mystery
Red Rum.
Monday.
And your host of Mark's Murder Mystery Monday is my other half. She is lovely, puts up with me, and I with her. Courtney, everyone.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hello.
Very, very cool. Courtney, thank you.
Welcome for having me.
Welcome to the festivities.
Yeah, I really like that. Is it bumper music? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good.
Oh, do you? Good.
That last one before the Mark's Murder Mystery, which
You liked it, right? You like the drum
it's good.
stuff? Okay, well, we'll make a note of that. Albert will note that, and we'll use more of it, or use it strategically, or something. So, thank you for that,
Albert. Thank you.
Now, you always come. Let me just say one thing about what you do, and it's very difficult because you are such a student of this true crime world. The difficult part comes in that you try to find, this is interesting, I think, Kim, it's interesting because there's a challenge. On the one hand, Kim, Courtney wants to do stuff that relates to the Bay Area, to where a lot of our listeners and viewers are, or relates to some high-profile case, perhaps from the Bay Area, or she wants to do something that relates to the zeitgeist of the moment, that traces back to stuff in the news right now, or the reopening of a case, something like that. If she does Bay Area stuff, we always get emails like, oh, please don't do any more Bay Area stuff. It reminds me of, a tough time, which is legit. I mean, people have PTSD from whatever crime,
It's true, but it's good. It's important to remember as well.
Yeah, and I think also, she's trying to pick relevant stuff for us, not only interesting, but relevant. And so, Courtney, I sympathize with how hard it is to try to find the thing that's going to land with everyone. So I encourage you increasingly not to pay any attention to any of that and just do the stuff that you want. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you for that introductory.
No, I was just explaining that it's a tough target.
No, it's tough. I get a lot of emails asking for Bay Area stories, and you have been kind enough to shield me from any of the sort of maybe less than happy feedback. So it's a tough thing to make a decision around and try to, serve the interests of everybody. And that's what I'm trying to do. Oftentimes I'm looking at stories that are happening right now so that if somebody's interested, they can
follow up if they want to.
Up on it. Yeah. So most of the time that's why I'm connecting these stories with this segment. So
now, tell me where we are today and what we're going to be doing.
It's a great segue for the story that we're doing today.
Okay.
Which is not a news story. Mm-hmm. It's Natalee Holloway.
Oh.
And I think a lot of people know Natalee Holloway. But what is interesting is that in the last 2 to 3 days, an email has been discovered that was sent by Joran Vandersloot talking about how he and his father rented a boat and disposed of the body.
Wow.
Yes. But I'm going to go back quickly and just
remind us what Natalee
remind you what this story is, and then we can talk about this email.
We're looking at a beautiful picture of her and her.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Natalee was 18. She was living in Alabama. She was living with her mom and her stepfather. She had just graduated high school on May 24th, 2005. She went missing on May 30th. So the entire class, there was 130 kids. There were 11 chaperones. They all went to Aruba to enjoy the graduation, their high school graduation. And on the last evening before they were to leave, which was May 30th, Natalee goes out with her friends. If you go to the next slide, I'm going to just walk through the visuals. So perfect. So this is actually Natalee and her father and mother. And I wanted to show this slide because they have been very active in trying to find what happened with Natalee. And actually the body has never been discovered, but Natalee's body's never been discovered. So her father had her declared legally dead in 2012. Mm-hmm. But if you go to the next slide, Natalee is out with her friends. They go to this club called, what is it? Carlos and Charlie's. Mm-hmm. And they were hanging out with a lot of tourists, a lot of locals. I think American tourists make close to up to 80% of tourism in Aruba or something crazy like that, at least at the time. But there were a lot of tourists there, but they were hanging out with these locals, and one of them happened to be Joran Vandersloot. And so Natalee is seen leaving what is this?
Carlos and Charlie's
in a car with Joran Vandersloot and two of his friends who are brothers. And so they leave. If you go to the next slide, this is the last picture this was the last picture of Natalee. So Natalee is there on the left-hand side, slightly lighted versus the other people in the photo. So this is the last image of her. So she's seen in a car. Now her friends saw her in the car because the windows were down and she was leaving with them. What transpired after is there's just never been clarity around. So the two brothers say that first they said that they dropped Natalee off at the hotel and they dropped Joran off at his house. Then they said they dropped Natalee off at the beach with Joran to hang out with Joran. Then, Joran said he was at his house, but then he also said he went to the beach with Natalee. So what actually happened, there's still no clarity around. But in fact, the next morning when everybody gathers at the hotel and they're supposed to leave for their flight, Natalee is not there. And so if you go to the next slide, they begin to look for Natalee. And they're interviewing, of course, these three young men who are the last to be seen with
Albert, the next slide, please.
There
he is. Yeah.
So
who are these two guys?
This is Joran. On the right-hand side, the younger man is Joran. And then on the left-hand side is Joran's father, Paul. And Paul actually was in the middle of becoming a judge. They're both of Dutch descent. The Aruba is a Dutch
protectorate or territory.
Territory, thank you. So while he wasn't from Aruba, he was of Dutch descent, so he was very much a local there. So if you go to the next slide, a bunch of missing posters are put all around the island. There are hundreds of people that are looking for Natalee. Natalee's parents fly in. They are, working with the Aruban authorities to try to find Natalee, and nobody comes up with anything. As I mentioned, there's like all of these sort of misrepresentations of what happened on that night. So on December 18th, 2007, the Aruban authorities close the case. And they say, like, at this point, we don't have enough evidence.
She's just a missing person, right?
Yes.
Okay.
They reopened the case February of 2008 when video footage of Joran Vandersloot is surfaced. And he talks about how Natalee died on the morning of her disappearance and that a friend of his disposed the body. Then after an interview with him, he said he actually had done something truly, obviously even more horrific with Natalee. He claims he sold her into sexual slavery, meaning he's just coming up with these wild stories and none of them are true. And he's absolutely lying to journalists and the authorities who are interviewing him about what happened on that night. In 2010, he is convicted of the murder of another woman who he met in Peru. And he murdered this woman in a hotel room after meeting her in a casino. And in 2012, he is sentenced to 28 years for the murder of that woman.
So it quacks like the same thing.
Exactly. Now, there's a lot of other things that happen, but this year, in June of this year, he's actually extradited from Peru to the U.S. on charges of extortion and wire fraud. And here's what happened. He tried to get $250,000 out of Natalee's parents, blackmailing them, saying that if they paid him, he would tell them where her body was. And so they gave him an upfront payment of $25,000, and then he started to backtrack out of the whole thing. All of that was communicated through an email account on Yahoo. And so last week, in looking at that email account, an email was found wherein just days after the disappearance of Natalee Holloway, Joran wrote to a friend, David G., and I quote, "My dad got a boat 2 days later. We went for a ride and took care of things. That's all I'm going to say." And so this is the latest evidence that has come to light through other charges that he's being prosecuted for in the U.S. around the extortion and the wire fraud.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is his booking photo. Currently, he's in Alabama. And it's an incredible story because it's just so very clear that he murdered this woman, and it's so unfortunate that there's not been enough evidence to prosecute him for his crimes. And now, he's murdered the second woman. And if he had been charged with Natalee's murder, he would not have had the opportunity to kill this poor other woman. So
it's just unreal.
It's unreal.
Yeah.
And it was something that really captivated the U.S. And it was just prior to social media being a channel for like discovery and communication. And so it predates that a little bit. But this is in fact the newest information. By the way, too, I don't know why you're using your email for all this stuff. It just seems really poorly planned.
Well, yeah. I don't, I don't know why you're killing people either. So
exactly.
It's definitely a disconnect. Courtney, a fascinating development.
Yeah.
Always pretty sure that he was the guy, but now you're just saying, wow, the constellation of evidence is overwhelming.
Yeah. I mean, he has somewhat constantly said that he was involved with her death.
Right.
But it's all been these fabricated stories that don't make sense, and there's not enough evidence to prosecute him.
Yeah.
This seems to be something that, let's hope, will bring him to justice. So
that is Mark's Murder Mystery Monday for today.
Mark's Murder Mystery Monday on The Mark Thompson Show.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.